dove si ha il sequestro del materiale video fotografico raccolto da Indymedia, che era custodito nel centro sociale Teatro Polivalente Occupato di Bologna.
Vengono sequestrate migliaia di ore di immagini e di video dove all'interno c'è tutto. Nessuno di noi poteva immaginare l'evoluzione che avrebbe preso tutto ciò, del potere delle immagini e dei danni anche che quelle
So well done.
l'uso che si poteva fare.
I'm a big fan of documentaries in general, and this definitely had that kind of feel for me. It definitely was really informative. I liked that they gave context right at the beginning with like having their actual written messages about like what the movie was going to be about, and then from there you slowly get more context for the actual like incident. You get the actual raw images, you get all these different perspectives of not just what happened, but everything else that kind of was involved over several years. So it wasn't just about that one incident, it was about how that incident and the kind of after effects lasted for a lot longer. And just all of it together, it was really well put together. It kept moving, you kept getting more information, you kept getting different perspectives. It didn't just stick with like interview style. It had, like I said, the raw images. So you did get a lot of variety of not even the type of information you were receiving, but how you were receiving it, which kept it really interesting and kept it really like dynamic and moving, which for me makes it easier to watch a documentary and learn and be more invested if it does keep things fresh and it keeps the perspective like moving and it's not so like stationary and stagnant. So I really enjoyed how it was put together. I thought it was really well done.
I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was super well done. Such a, you know, serious and heartbreaking story, and just told in a very interesting way. I loved the drawings throughout the film, and just great use of different ways into the sort of, you know, interviews and archival footage. It was just super well done and a great documentary.
Wow, what a gripping documentary from Italy. It's largely concerning a protest against globalization that happened in Genoa in July 2001. The film has many fascinating interviews with people fighting for justice for the protesters who were charged, even though there was much video and photographic evidence that it was actually law enforcement officers who were responsible for violent attacks against the protesters. What really stood out for me were the scenes of the cartoonist depicting angry officers and frightening scenes. Very well done. There was also an excellent haunting soundtrack that underscored the film. Also effective were the scenes of the almost empty room where there were once many helpers from SupportoLegale poring over the videos and documents to help protesters on trial. I am happy to hear that 15 of the 25 were freed due to their efforts, giving a clearer look at the evidence. Excellent documentary.
Very interesting documentary about a group of very critical, crucial activists that had their peak when defending a group of Protestants in Italy. This group is called SupportoLegale, and they are just there to protect their citizens' right to peaceful protest and their right to fight to preserve justice. They speak about oppression, how the police and authorities take advantage of power, and how even on this modern age it is hard for any innocent person to get justice and for any authorities to deserve or get a punishment that they deserve. they they give very emotional testimonials about the people involved, and at the end they give us a great closing poem and a very poignant song. It's just appalling to see this type of videos, but I know much more about this conflict now, and this is a great job. Very, very well
It's a
researched.
deep dive into the G8 protests that occurred in Genoa from the point of view of Indymedia. And I mean, narratively, this felt like a prequel film to what we've seen happen in the States recently. And, you know, anyone who's followed the conflict between Black Lives Matter and the police closely, and especially from the way the media has covered it all, will know what I'm talking about. That said, Indymedia is not like a mainstream outlet like CNN or Fox. They're more like a grassroots organization that's devoted specifically to reporting on stuff like political protests. Now, like many documentaries that recount a story from a certain point of view, it's definitely biased. However, they do have lots of evidence to back up their claims. So this should be treated more like a video essay, and that they present an argument and then support it with evidence and facts. And I thought the most harrowing piece of evidence they presented was all the audio recordings and footage of Indymedia journalists being beat up by police. And I'm really glad that they called attention to the murder of Carlo Giuliani. While I didn't know anything about it before, I came away with the feeling that it's something that needs to be brought up more and discussed more. It's the perfect example of just a broken justice system being corrupted that much further in political matters. So you can say that the events of G8 in Italy laid the groundwork for what we've seen in America today. It's just another sad example of history repeating itself.
Even though the events of In Campo Nemico take place a seas away from where we are, it's definitely a cautionary tale of the consequences of staying silent. We're not far off from what happened in this documentary. I mean, literally during lockdown, we had our own protests. And, well, it's very easy to wipe our hands and just say that it's a bunch of rioters. There's usually more to that. And that label is usually used to simplify a cause. It's much easier to antagonize protesters and say that they're rioters rather than listening to why they're rioting in the first place. And that's a very strong, foreboding, and concerning message, especially when there comes the additional factor of police brutality and tensions between the people and law enforcement.
This was such a great documentary. I thought it was fascinating. I learned a lot from it, and I thought it was put together really well. It was so easy to follow along despite being in Italian, though I really do wish the subtitles hadn't cut out at the end, because I was very lost after that and I just wanted to know what was going on. But otherwise, I really appreciated all the information here. I was so impressed hearing about this huge effort and the monumental scope of work that this group had taken on. Like everything from these small things like everybody operating under one collective identity as the SupportoLegale, or the really complicated tasks like cataloging all that footage. I was just amazed hearing about it because I couldn't wrap my head around actually doing it. I love the drawings that we got throughout the film. I thought they were a really nice way to illustrate what was happening, what they were talking about, but also to just give us a bit of a breather from like all this information that we got. So I thought that was a very nice touch. And overall, I thought they did a really great job with this piece.
It was really, really fascinating. The interviews were great. I thought that the sound quality was spot on. It was perfect. I thought that the lighting, everything looked great. And some of the cinematography about, you know, when you got to see parts of Italy, some of it was beautiful. And then seeing parts of the protests and things like that where some of the looting happened, I was shocked about what a lot of the police were doing, and you know, also how long the trials took. It was a good thing that I think it was Indymedia who had people from Indymedia had volunteered to start forming SupportoLegale. It was a great thing that they did that. I was just bummed that about at 44 minutes the subtitles kicked out. They never came back. So I had gotten to a point where, you know, you're really invested, and then all of a sudden the subtitles stop and my Italian is non-existent. So that was a bit of a bummer, but I still felt that this was a really, really good documentary.